Good Monday morning, everyone. It is 10:10 a.m., which means it is time for this week's episode of Instant Replay. I'm your host, Lauren Hunter, and I have my co-host, Dave Garner, on the other line as usual. And we're excited to be here for another week talking about some local high school sports. We've got a lot on the agenda today, going from county to county. We've got some coaches interviews. We've got some youth football camps to talk about. Lots of stuff happening. We've got some official rules that are beginning today based off of the GHSA regulations. So we're super excited to talk about all of that. And before we get into it, I'm going to go ahead and welcome back my co-host, Dave Garner. Dave, how was your weekend?
Hey, Lauren, it was great. Yeah, great weekend overall. I was part of a couple of interesting things that happened over the weekend. One of those was a wing eat, actually, down in Cherokee County, Georgia. All the high schools got together, and this was the third annual done through a Cedarwood Tavern, a group of guys that they just love high school football, especially in Cherokee County. And so it was a lot of fun being part of that. Saturday night, emceed a concert on Lake Blue Ridge benefiting the Parade of Homes Scholarship Fund. Mark Wills was the headline act. Of course, Mark's a Blue Ridge native. Great act, though. A lot of top 40 hits throughout his career. Multi-platinum selling artist, member of the Grand Ole Opry and all that. But it was great. Very busy weekend. It was kind of like a work weekend, if you will, but a lot of fun. Now, but let me get this straight, Lauren. So BKP is out of the state. So you're telling me no interruptions this week from BKP in studio? I mean, I won't even know what to do with myself. It's just going to be you and I today and Josh, and loving that.
Well, it sounds like you had a great weekend, Dave, and I'm glad to hear that. That's interesting that you were at that wing eating contest. It sounds like a good time. But yes, BKP is out of the office today. He is out of the state. So we won't be hearing from him any today. And you're right, Dave. I mean, what are we going to do with ourselves on the show without having BKP here to chime in every now and then? It's just crazy to think about. I mean, it seems like every other day or every other time we have this show, I'll make some sort of comment and I'm just expecting him to chime in from nowhere. So, but we love BKP. We're sad that he's not here with us today, but he will be back in soon. So we're going to go right into our sports today that we have to talk about. First of all, we have a taking it to the next level that we want to talk about. We want to wish our congratulations to Madison Smith, a Pickens High senior who just signed to Shorter University for cheerleading over the weekend. So we're excited and thrilled to hear about this. We at Team FYN Sports, we love to highlight and promote young athletes in a positive way, and especially with our taking it to the next level here where we're highlighting these high school athletes who go on to compete and to continue their athletic career in college. So we're excited to hear about Madison. A lot of times, Dave, when we hear about signings, we automatically think about football or baseball or softball or basketball. And a lot of times we fail to think about some of the other sports that are out there that do get some recognition and deserve that recognition. And one of those is cheerleading. And now I used to be a cheerleader in a former life, so I've got you all. I know what it's like. But these cheerleaders, they are practicing, a lot of them. You know, it's like some of these other sports that the athletes go into these travel leagues during their off season from high school. And, you know, they go into these competitive sports as well and these competitive different programs. And they're practicing with that 24/7 with tumbling and with stunts and whatnot. And then they're also out on the sidelines on Friday nights. So they're constantly practicing as well. And a lot of times we just don't think about that because we're so focused on some of the other sports. So we definitely are glad to get the chance to highlight Madison Smith here over at Pickens. And Dave, I know that you do a lot over in the Pickens community. Is Madison one of the athletes that you know by any chance?
And I've gotten to know her family pretty well, actually. And, she, my daughter cheers on that squad for basketball. So I've gotten to know Madison pretty well, and just a great young lady, good family. And, I know you were a former cheerleader like you talked about. I have an appreciation for it simply because my daughter's, been a cheerleader throughout her life. And, there's always that debate that rages on whether cheerleading is a sport, whether sideline cheerleading, competition cheerleading, obviously a lot of different facets of cheerleading that folks may or may not realize. But, regardless of how you feel, they put in a lot of work, and they should definitely be recognized for that. And as far as folks like Madison, look, there's not a lot of, you talk about football and basketball and those sort of sports. Obviously there's not a lot of these student athletes that get the opportunity to compete at the college level in that particular sport. Cheerleading, you don't hear a lot of cheerleading signings. There's not a lot of money necessarily given to student athletes for cheerleading. So when you have one like Madison that is actually getting that scholarship to Shorter or wherever, you got to know that there's a lot of work that's being put in to be able to be rewarded and recognized like that with a scholarship opportunity through cheerleading. It doesn't happen very often unless you're just one of those outstanding, competition type cheerleaders, which, Madison is an outstanding cheerleader, but you just don't hear a lot about it simply because of the nature of the sport and the scholarship money given for that. But you're right, real quick to wrap up. I mean, you're right. There are a lot of things that go on, especially in a high school football game. You've got the cheerleaders, you've got the band. I mean, there's band scholarships. I mean, a lot of those student athletes go on to play at the next level, literally play an instrument or what have you. And so, we can't just get too, over submerged, if you will, in just, football and basketball, so forth, because there are a lot of other student athletes that certainly are worth the recognition. They put in the work.
You're exactly right, Dave. And you bring up another good point that I'll follow up with before we move on. Before we went live, I was telling Josh about this particular story, and I said, this is the first time I've heard about a cheerleader signing to play or to cheer in college in a long time. So again, we are very excited. Congratulations, Madison, and we look forward to hearing more about it as you go into your college career. So we're going to be moving on. Now, for those of you who have been watching the show for the last couple of weeks, you know that BKP and I, we've been going around and interviewing some head coaches of football programs in this area that we cover at Team FYN Sports. And so this past week, we finished up our 2019 North Georgia coaching series with Sid Maxwell, who is the head coach of the Dawson County Tigers. Now, to set up this interview for you all a little bit, this is Maxwell's 4th season as head coach for the Tigers. And over those 4 years, he has helped to build a program that is not only successful at the high school level. Last year, they had a record of 10-2, but it also reaches on into the feeder programs, into the middle school program, and into the rec programs and whatnot. And Maxwell mentioned that his philosophy for success of this program can include 3 words: trust, care, and commitment. And a direct quote from his interview is, quote, "It's just a system that young men know that whatever we do, we're going to try and make them a better athlete. They also know that I'm never going to ask them to do anything that doesn't have a purpose." A great quote there from Coach Maxwell. Another point to keep in mind before we watch this interview clip for the Tigers this season is that they are a relatively young team. They graduated 28 seniors last year in last year's graduating class. That's a lot of seniors. So as he had been doing with some of these other interviews, BKP asked Coach Maxwell if there are any seniors that have been stepping up. And here is Coach Maxwell's response.
I see, because let's go to the 28 seniors. 28 seniors is a lot of leadership. Now, you're high school football, and you're coaching obviously on the sideline, but you enjoy it as coaches, I would presume, when you send out 28 leaders on the field at any given time that are out there. So that leadership off the field, don't like to leave guys out, but talk about not the 28 that have left. Who's replacing and who you see as picking up the leadership out there on the field that game night?
This is my 25th year as a head football coach, 15 at Sequoia, 5 at Lambert, and 5 up here at Dawson. And my philosophy always is to focus on whatever your senior class is. Start there, give them opportunity to lead. Then if you have a sophomore or junior that comes out, and my philosophy as far as leadership, you want to start with your seniors, your juniors, your sophomores, work your way down. But before I crown someone to be a leader, there are mannerisms through the spring football, through summer, through the fall before we play, before I actually say, hey, these are going to be the guys who lead my team. And when I say that, before I put that crown on their head, I'm looking for those guys that, some people are doing this for a long time. You put that crown on their head, and they feel like they're better than everybody else because you made them a leader.
I like that, Coach.
And when they raise their head up, what happens to their crown? It falls off. So that guy is not who I'm looking for. I'm not looking for that guy that when everything's going good, he's a great leader, but when everything doesn't go good, and it's going to be that time's going to happen, he's going to drop his head and the crown comes off. So the guys we anoint going into this season is going to be the ones that keep the crown on their head. And that when we're in.
Great little bit of that interview there. And I have a slight correction. I mentioned before that this is Coach Maxwell's 4th season for the Tigers, but it'll actually be his 5th. But I also want to say I love the quote at the end of the interview, or the end of that interview clip right there. Quote, "The guys that we anoint this season are going to be the ones that keep the crown on their head," end quote. And I want to say also thank you, Coach Maxwell, for having BKP and I over for a little while the other day, and for letting us sit down with you and for giving us your time for this interview. But I like that Coach Maxwell is talking about, especially after such a successful season as the Tigers have had and all these seniors that they've graduated, he's saying that he's going to try to keep the guys humble. And BKP is asking him, and I believe he took like 3 or 4 different approaches to try to ask Coach Maxwell, well, who are some seniors that are stepping up? Who are some seniors that you want to highlight? And he's saying, well, hold on. Before we do that, I just want to say that we're waiting, because I'm not going to mention anyone and put that crown on their head, and then potentially they get big-headed or they drop their head and the crown falls off. You want to make sure, because as a coach, you're trying to coach these guys on the sideline, but as soon as they get off the sideline and they get out there in the huddle, it's all up to them. And of course, naturally, a couple of guys are going to emerge as a leader, but you want to make sure before you endorse that leader that it's somebody that's going to be able to handle that. Because if you kind of single them out as a leader and put them on that pedestal and give them that responsibility, you want to make sure it's somebody that's going to be able to handle it. Because if not, as soon as they get into the huddle, you're going to have a problem. And you're going to have that lack of respect from the other players and all sorts of other problems. And Dave, I'm going to bring you back and give you a chance to comment on this, because I know I've been there. I've been doing the interviews with BKP, and I've been writing about them and posting them online. So I've had plenty of chances to see this interview. But I also want to welcome you back, for one, to give people a break from seeing me, but also to let you give some comments on this. So Dave, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I've known Coach Maxwell a long time, 25 years as a head coach. He was actually one of my assistant coaches when I was in high school. So I know Coach Maxwell pretty well. We go way back. And incidentally, this is my 25th year broadcasting high school football. So Coach Maxwell and I are kind of on the same path. But great guy, great coach. Spent many years at Sequoia, as he mentioned, before going over to Forsyth County and basically starting up the Lambert program, which has pretty much been a powerhouse since its inception. And then, of course, essentially retired. But then Dawson County came calling. And so Coach Maxwell comes out of retirement, and as you said last year, 10-2, and he's going into his 5th year already. I think his approach has been a little bit different at Dawson County. I think that as he's gotten in his latter, more senior years, if you will, he's relaxed a little bit more. He's really let the guys have a lot of fun, and it's showing. I mean, the product on the field has been awesome. I mean, let's face it, Dawson County, like a lot of our quote-unquote mountain schools traditionally, is not a powerhouse in high school football, but over the last several years, these guys have just been unbelievable. The talent is starting to catch up in the Dawsonville area. As you mentioned, it kind of filters down to the youth. I think Coach Maxwell's done a good job of installing that culture to be able to kind of have everyone on the same page. We're seeing that in Pickens County. We're seeing that, in Fannin County and other areas. Gilmer County, I think, is going to be in that direction, but we see it in a lot of our areas, and that's what you got to do. You've got to build a program from the youth up, and everyone being on the same page, consistent, running similar styles of offenses and defenses. If you're running the wishbone in the middle school program, and then you get to the high school and you're running a spread or a wide open offense, for example, there's just not the continuity there. So I think that Coach Maxwell's done a really good job in Dawson County of being able to establish a program, from top to bottom, starting with the youth through, the middle school, junior high ranks, and then obviously into the high school. So I'm excited. I think that despite the 28 seniors that they lost to graduation, I think that the sky is still the limit for this year's Tiger team, and hopefully they'll be able to make some noise. I think they will.
First of all, Dave, I just want to say, I think you know everybody. I'm just about convinced that you know everybody, because anytime I throw it back to you, it seems like you say, oh yeah, I've known so-and-so for a long time, or I've known so-and-so's family for a long time. But I'm just messing with you, Dave. But yes, you're exactly right with this Tiger team. I mean, Coach Maxwell reaching down into the youth program and making sure that it's that continuity there. And what does that create? That creates a community for this Dawson County community as well. And we're very excited because this season, I believe, will be our first season here at Team FYN Sports having a reporter on the sideline of the Dawson County football games. And I actually got a chance to do that myself earlier in the spring when they had their spring game against Pickens. So it was really exciting to be there, and we're excited to have that reporter on the sideline as well. Now, fans, don't get too bummed that this is our last interview in the North Georgia coaching series, because we will be bringing these back later on. We're going to have an entire instant replay edition dedicated to preseason football eventually in the next couple of weeks, because we're getting super close to high school football kicking off. But in order to watch this full interview, you can go to our website, FetcherNews.com, click on Dawson County tab at the top of the page, and then you can go to Team FYN Sports. Scroll down, find the article that accompanies this interview, and you can click on the interview from there. Or you can also go to our YouTube channel, Fetcher News FYN TV, and find the interview there as well. And we're going to take a brief break right here. And when we come back, we'll be finishing up our coaching interviews, and then we'll be talking about some other local sports. So don't go anywhere.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to this week's episode of Instant Replay. I'm your host, Lauren Hunter, and I have my co-host, Dave Garner, with me. Before we went to break, we were talking about the North Georgia preseason coaching series that BKP and I have been doing, going around and interviewing head coaches of the football programs at some of the local high schools that we will be covering this season. And I want to say thank you to all of the coaches who have given their time and allowed BKP and I to come by and interview them. It has been great. BKP and I, we've had a great time, and we've been able to interview a lot of the coaches that we cover here at Team FYN Sports. And shortly, I will be creating a playlist for all of these coaches' interviews. And when that happens, we'll talk about it on Instant Replay next week and be able to give you information on how to find that. And then also in the coming weeks, we'll be preparing for a preseason football edition of Instant Replay here. So be on the lookout for more news and updates about that. But we're going to wrap up our coaches' interviews as well as our North Georgia coaches. We've been talking to our Western North Carolina coaches as well. And this week, BKP and I had the opportunity to sit down and interview legendary North Carolina Murphy Bulldogs head coach David Gentry. And this was exciting because we got to take a little trip up there and sit down and talk to Coach Gentry. Now, granted, this series has been a little bit shorter, but nonetheless, BKP and I, we had a great time. And many of you probably know or at least heard of Coach Gentry. Under his leadership, the Bulldogs have won, I believe, 6 state titles, including one last season in 2018. Now, Coach Gentry began his coaching career in 1971, and if he wins 7 more games this season, he will be the winningest high school football coach in North Carolina history with 413 wins. That's a lot. He celebrated his 400th win last season. Now, every media outlet that goes to interview Coach Gentry wants to be different in their approach and their interview questions, but with a coach like Coach Gentry, I mean, you're going to ask him about this record breaking that's coming up. I mean, it's like the elephant in the room. Like, even if you ask him a million questions before then, you got to ask him about that. I mean, you can't not ask him about how he's about to become, more than likely, the winningest coach in North Carolina high school football history. I mean, it was amazing, and it was an honor, really, to get a chance to sit down and talk to him. But when BKP did ask him about whether or not he's excited to break that record this season, potentially, here is his response, and you may be a little bit surprised about it. So, Josh, go ahead and roll that interview clip for us.
They should be better.
Well, I know you guys are getting ready for Irwin here in a couple weeks. Let me I can't thank you enough for your time, Coach, but let me finalize with this, because I always can't go away without talking about this. You celebrated your 400th win as a head coach last year. You know, you've won several, as we talked about, state titles. This year, I think the number is you're 6 wins away from being the winningest head football coach in North Carolina. Do you think about
7?
7. That's a little more pressure than I put out.
Yeah.
So
I'll take 6.
But 7. Okay, so you got 6 to tie. That's what I had. Right?
6 to tie.
7 to be the winningest.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. But 7 to be the winningest football coach, head football coach in high school history in North Carolina. You think about it, or do you get up and say next game's the next game?
Next game's the next game. I can't hardly. That's always been our philosophy, like I said before. You're only good as your next game played in the next game. How do you win 400 games? You don't certainly go start coaching in 1971 when I first became head coach. I said, well, I'm going to win 400 games. You know, see, I had an idea I was going to win 400, but you always try to win the next one. I think the media is caught up in that a lot more than I am.
Okay.
I think, and it will. I would like to go ahead. You know, I would like to accomplish that this year, but anything that state champions, anything that we do as far as 400 victories, 300 victories, whatever, you know, you never had really a chance. And you mentioned that, Coach, how do you get the boys off of it, or how you go off of it? You're always looking for the next state championship. And so, at the end of my career, then I can look back.
Thank you, Josh, for rolling that. And there is so much just in that one clip that we could probably spend an entire show talking about it. But we'll break it down a little bit here. Coach Gentry is saying that the next game is the next game, and he's just taking it one game at a time. And honestly, I think that's how you get the record that Coach Gentry has. With 400, right now he has 406 wins on his record. He needs 7 more to break the all-time high record of 412 and get 413 and break that record. But it's like he said, you don't start out in 1971 when he started coaching and say, I'm going to win 400 games. You don't do that. It's like the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. You just take it one game at a time. And that's what he's saying that they're doing at Murphy is just, or he's and the team is doing at Murphy, taking it one game at a time. The next game is the next game. That's their philosophy. And I was a little surprised at his response that the media is more caught up on it than he is. I mean, not that Coach Gentry, he seems like a humble guy. He was very nice, and it was great to sit down with him and talk to him for a little while. But I was surprised at his response. I just expected him to be a little bit more excited about it. Maybe he's more excited that he's letting on, and, wink, wink there. But, Dave, I'm going to welcome you back and let you give some thoughts on this. What do you think about this whole interview and about our time with Coach Gentry?
Well, surprising to you, Lauren, I do know Coach Gentry as well. But, hey, in my defense, who doesn't? I mean, obviously he is flirting with history in North Carolina. I was just doing some quick math, and math is not my strong suit. But if you take 406 wins and you average it out over the 47, odd years that he's been a coach, that comes out to almost 9 wins a season on average. I mean, high school football, you're playing 10 games, plus playoffs. But that says a lot that, when you're winning at an average at a tilt like that, I mean, that just goes to show you, it's not only longevity that has kept him where he's at, it's success as well. And, it's amazing what he's been able to do as a coach, as an athletic director over the years. I mean, he's obviously a staple, not in just Murphy, North Carolina, but in North Carolina. A lot of folks know Coach Gentry, obviously with him having been around for so long, and not even just in North Carolina. I mean, you got to think about the fact that Murphy, being fairly close to the border, if you will. I mean, there's a lot of schools in Georgia, Fannin, Gilmer, that have history with Murphy. I mean, they've played a lot of schools in Georgia over the years. They've come down and played Chattahoochee, in teams that are closer to Atlanta. So there's a lot of folks, even in the state of Georgia, who are well aware of what Coach Gentry has meant to high school football. And it's an awesome record. I mean, obviously, with the team that they have, I don't see why in the world he wouldn't break it this year, needing just 6 to tie, 7 to be alone at the top of the ranks. But again, very excited about Murphy football. And, Coach Gentry, I mean, he's a guy, I know as a human, you have to think a little bit about it. I wouldn't necessarily believe him if he said he didn't think about it, but I think the approach, like you said, it has to be, and like he said, is it's the next game. It's one game at a time. The records will take care of themselves. The wins, the championships, those things will take care of themselves as long as we go out and we treat it, one game at a time, and we take care of our own business.
You're exactly right, Dave. And I liked also what Coach Gentry said at the end of this interview clip when he said, at the end of my career, then I can look back. It's like living life with a sense of urgency. I mean, you go right along, and at the end you can look back and say, yeah, we did it. We did that. I did that. It was great to be there. I really enjoyed, again, being there with Coach Gentry and with BKP. And again, on behalf of BKP and I want to thank Coach Gentry for his time and for letting us come up and we were there probably about 30, 45 minutes. He and BKP got talking about people that they know up in North Carolina. And if BKP were here, this is where I'm guessing he would probably chime in. But I started to think we were never going to leave. I mean, and it was the beginning of the interview when he started, or before the camera started rolling, they started talking about people that they knew up in that area. And I thought, we may be here all day. I mean, there's no telling how long we're going to be here. But again, Murphy Bulldogs fans, if you want to watch the rest of this full interview clip, and I'm assuming that you probably do, you can go to our website, fetchyournews.com, scroll across the top. At the top of our website, you can click on the Cherokee, North Carolina tab, And then you can look under Team FYN Sports on there, and this interview will be one of the first ones that pops up. You can click on the article, and then you can click on the video down at the bottom. You can also go to our YouTube channel. Josh, if you want to go ahead and throw up our social media card there, I'll give all of that a shout out as well. You can also go to our YouTube channel, FYN TV, Fetch Your News, and you can subscribe to that channel as well to get updates about everything we're doing here as far as our interviews and all of our videos and our media clips. And then also you can like our Facebook page, which is where you're probably at right now if you're watching this show live, or it is where you're at right now if you're watching this show live. Team FYN Sports, you can like that there. And then we always upload these videos to our YouTube channel after they premiere live. And then go and like us on Twitter and Instagram as well. Same handle across all social media at Team FYN Sports. And if you have any information or shout-outs that you would like to share with us to read here on the broadcast, Team FYN Sports at fetchyournews.com. That is our email. That's the best way to send us information. But you can also give us a call there at that number at the bottom of the screen. And Josh, thank you for throwing up that social media. Now, we also have, along with Coach Gentry in our Western North Carolina series, we interviewed Coach Chad McClure from the Hayesville Yellow Jackets, who actually play Murphy as well. They're in the same region. So these will be created into a playlist shortly. We'll have our 2019 North Georgia coaching series, and then we'll also have our 2019 Western North Carolina coaching series, which will consist of Chad McClure and David Gentry, those head coaches there. So it has been great doing all of these coaches' interviews, and that's going to wrap up the coaches' interviews as far as sharing them here on our weekly edition of Instant Replay. Now, again, we will be bringing these back here in the next few weeks because we're getting super close to high school football, and we're going to talk about that here in just a second. And we're going to be having a preseason football edition of Instant Replay here in the coming weeks. So be on the lookout for more information about that. Now, speaking of fall activities and football starting up here soon, yesterday the official GHSA Twitter account tweeted, actually on Friday, that all fall sports and activities are set to officially begin regular practice today, July 29th. Football teams can also start practicing in pads regularly beginning on August 1st. We are getting super close, high school football fans, high school sports fans. It's amazing to think about how fast this summer has gone by. The Team FYN sports team is looking forward to getting out and covering all of our high school athletes this season. But to echo the tweet of the GHSA, we wish you all a fun and safe start to the regular season. Dave, I'm going to throw it back over to you before we go to break. I mean, can you believe it that we're already almost done with the summer, and that in a matter of, I believe, a week even, that the high schools will be starting back and we'll really be getting underway with our fall sports?
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, that we've already bridged the gap. It seems like the summer gets shorter and shorter every year. I know a lot of the teachers are already back, to pre-planning in our respective areas. The students are going to be back, either this week or next.
Well, it looks like we lost Dave there for a minute, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and go to break and give us a chance to get Dave back on. And when we come back, we'll be talking about some local youth football camps in the area and then wrapping it up with a little bit of regional sports. So, Josh, go ahead and take us to break. We'll be right back, sports fans.
At Ingalls, we have a very special family. A family of farmers, ranchers, and dairymen. Clerks, butchers, and bakers. Deli workers, pharmacists, and florists. We work hard every day to bring you the very best. And we'll continue to wake up every morning and work as hard as you do. This is our town, and we built this community together. Ingalls, your neighbor for over 50 years.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
The summer savings are too hot to touch at Dave's Chevrolet in Jasper. And every Chevy truck has a red hot price, like new Colorado Crew Cabs, over $6,500 off, or new Silverado Crew Cabs, over $11,000 off. You won't find a hotter deal on a new Chevy truck anywhere else in Georgia. The summer savings event going on right now at Dave's Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Dave's Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and LJ, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN 10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back. You're watching this week's episode of Instant Replay. Dave, we're glad to hear that you're back on the line. Before we went to break, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we will be bringing you back shortly. We're going to move right along because we're getting a little bit short on time, but we're going to be talking about actually in your area, Dave, and undoubtedly you know people. We were joking before. The Dave knows everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter, and you can't catch Dave off guard whenever we throw it back to him. I mean, he always has something to say. He's just that good at his job. I mean, Dave, we really appreciate you here, and I'm so glad to be co-hosting with you. It's an honor. But anyway, we're going to be talking about over in Pickens. The Pickens football team had their youth camp this week, and over 160 kids in the age group of 7U to 11U came out to participate. Now, we want to give a shout out to RJ Casey, our reporter over in Pickens, who is always on the sideline for us during football season. You won't go to a Pickens football game where RJ is not there. And RJ, thank you for this information. I appreciate you always sending me announcements and updates about everything because it makes my life a lot easier too. But campers participated in drills, ran part of the offense, and even got to, quote, run over QB CJ Stryker during a ball security drill. It sounds like these guys are gearing up for some serious football here in the next couple of weeks. There's only about 40 days until kickoff in the Mountain Football League that the Pickens Rec Department is a part of. And then over in Fannin as well, they had their youth camp, and I actually had the chance to be out there this week, starting bright and early Monday morning and lasting each day until Wednesday. Now, I was only out there on Wednesday morning, but this was a 3-day camp. The camp was divided into 2 age groups, 5 through 8-year-olds coming in from 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning, and players ages 9 until 7th grade showing up at 10:30 and staying until 12:30. Campers rotated around to stations that were devoted to aspects of football such as footwork, tackling, and passing. Both age groups also finished up with mini scrimmages at the end of the day, and that was fun to watch them kind of, run around and pass the ball to each other, especially the younger guys. Coaching staff for the Fannin Rebels and members of the high school teams assisted in teaching the camp. I got a brief chance to have a little interview with Coach Chad Cheatham of the Fannin Rebels at the end of the last day. And you can watch that interview if you go to our website, fetchernews.com, click on the Fannin tab at the top, click on Team FYN Sports, and then that article as well as that interview will be one of the first ones that pops up. And you can also find pictures of the event on our Team FYN Sports Facebook page, which is where you're at right now if you're watching this broadcast. Team FYN Sports under our Photos tab, and there will be an album there devoted to this camp. Now, just to give you an idea of what Coach Cheatham and I talked about, here's a direct quote from the interview talking about the camp and these kids. Quote, "The most important thing is about getting them excited, letting them have fun, and making it a great experience for them and allowing them to see these other kids," referring to the high school players, end quote. So I want to say thank you to the Fannin Rebels staff for letting me come out and hang out with you guys for a little while, as well as cover this camp and get to see these kids that will be out in just a couple of weeks and be out and playing in the Mountain Football League. And Dave, before we got cut off there, I know you're talking about how we're only a few weeks away from football getting kicked off, literally, and then also the summer is almost to an end. So I'll welcome you back to finish those comments.
Yeah, we had a quick power outage. It looked like, and so it kind of came out of nowhere there. So I do apologize for that. Yeah, I was feeling good, Lauren. I was in the zone, right mid thought, and all of a sudden all the lights went out. So I was like, oh my goodness. So as you guys know, if you're technology minded at all, it takes a little while to reboot the computer and all that. So do apologize for that. I'll have to call the power company on that one. But anyway, no, you're right. I mean, and seeing the images that you're sharing there as far as the youth camps and all those different things, I mean, it's just a reminder that the start of the actual seasons are upon us, not just high school, but youth and, football in general. I'm excited about it. Obviously, the Falcons are in training camp mode. So, we're right around the corner, from college, pro, all the way down. And so, just an awesome time of year, and it's great to see all the youngsters out there, competing, learning the fundamentals of the game, and that's what it's all about in the summertime. It's having fun. It's luring these guys in, hopefully making them, future Rebels and future, Bobcats and Tigers and what have you. So just a very exciting time of year.
You're right, Dave. And another great thing about these camps is even though they're learning, they're also having a great time. There's nobody out there who has a sad face or a frown. I mean, it's 8:30 in the morning, and I will admit I'm not a morning person, but these kids get out there and they look like they're having the time of their life. Just getting a chance to run out there, run around, and play the sport that they love so much. And speaking of sports, we had a comment on our Facebook page from Tina Russell who was asking if we're going to be covering any of the Lady Rebels softball this season. And the answer is yes. We talk a lot about football here on the show, and obviously we give a lot of focus to football in this area, but that's not the only sport that we cover. We're all about highlighting and promoting all young athletes here in a positive way here at Team FYN Sports. So the answer is we will have a reporter out at some of the Lady Rebels softball games. Now we have one more break that we're going to take right here on our show, and when we come back we'll be wrapping up talking a little bit about my column that I have weekly, Sports Talk Thursday with Lauren Hunter, and then wrapping it up with some regional sports. So we'll be right back. Josh, take us to break.
At Ingalls, we have a very special family. A family of farmers, ranchers, and dairymen. Clerks, butchers, and bakers. Deli workers, pharmacists, and florists. We work hard every day to bring you the very best. And we'll continue to wake up every morning and work as hard as you do. This is our town, and we built this community together. Ingalls, your neighbor for over 50 years.
In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
The summer savings are too hot to touch at Dave Chevrolet in Jasper. And every Chevy truck has a red hot price, like new Colorado Crew Cabs, over $6,500 off, or new Silverado Crew Cabs, over $11,000 off. You won't find a hotter deal on a new Chevy truck anywhere else in Georgia. The summer savings event going on right now at Dave Chevrolet in Jasper.
Better days ahead, Dave Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back as we're wrapping up this week's episode of Instant Replay. Before we went to break, we were talking about some youth football camps in the area, and how pumped we are that we're just a few weeks out from football literally kicking off, and then as well as some of the other sports like softball that we're going to be covering this season. Now, I do want to say to everyone, we do give a lot of focus to football here on the show, but that's not the only sport we cover. We go out and we try to get information and coverage of all the other sports in the area as well. So if you're an athlete or you're a parent of another sport, don't worry, we got you here as well. But we're going to wrap up talking about usually how on the show we might have a little mini debate or a little commentary about something that's going on in the sports world. And usually that's connected to my sports column, which is Sports Talk Thursday with Lauren Hunter, that comes out on every Thursday, hence the title. But this week I took a break from talking about some stuff that was going on in the sports world just to talk about how we are so close to fall sports getting underway. And if you're like me and the fall is just one of your favorite seasons in general, then you're super excited for this upcoming season. And on Wednesday, like I mentioned before, I was out at the Fannin County Youth Football Camp during the morning, and there was a slight breeze, and I dare to even say chill in the air. And when I felt that, it just made me think about how close we are to the fall and how pumped and excited I am for the fall and for all the sports that are coming along with it. And especially this being my first season here at Team FYN Sports, I'm even more looking forward to the upcoming season. So we've been going around, Team FYN Sports has, to interview coaches and to cover these football camps. And I talked about all of this in my column. So if you're excited as I am for the upcoming festivities, go and give this column a read. It is on our website, fetchyournews.com, and you can just click on any of the counties on there, and then if you click on Team FYN Sports under that county's page, you'll be able to find this column, and you can look for that feature image that Josh has up there on the TV screen. This subtitle of this week's column is Football is Coming, in honor of Game of Thrones, for all of you Game of Thrones fans. Now, I'm going to welcome back my co-host, Dave Garner, who was here with me through it all, even through a power outage that we had today briefly. And Dave, we always have a segment worth garnering your attention. You see what I did there? That was Josh's idea. I got to give credit to Josh. But Dave, I'm going to welcome you back. What do you have for us this week as far as regional sports?
Well, I'd like to bring Josh in at some point here, I know, because we got some Braves talk on the back end of this. But, yeah, obviously a lot of eyes, of course, on training camp, as we mentioned, with the Falcons. And I know BKP is not a big NFL guy, and rightfully so. But, the Falcons are on the field, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that, later on as we get into the football season. Be interested to see a lot of the jobs, the things that are up in the air right now. I'm particularly interested to see how Isaiah Oliver is going to, transcend, I guess, into that starting job with Robert Alford being gone at corner opposite Desmond Trufant. There's a lot of things going on. I mean, they brought a couple of guys in, had a couple guys on the back end of the depth chart go down on the first day or so. But so far, knock on wood, nothing major. We got to keep folks healthy. Certainly the big deal there. We'll talk more about that. Of course, the Atlanta United, obviously a tough loss against LAFC the other night on the West Coast midweek. And, 4-3. I mean, they're down 4-1 at one point. They battle back, but, giving up 4 goals in the span of about 11 minutes, just not going to cut it there. Now they've got a big one against the Galaxy and Ibrahim Zlatan Ibrahimovic. That's a mouthful, but anyway. Most folks know him just as Zlatan. That's how he refers to himself in the third person. You got to like guys like that. But anyway, but Atlanta United still in good position, right where they want to be, even though that match the other day was pretty disappointing. So they've got a match. I believe it's this coming Saturday. The Atlanta United does at home against the Galaxy. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully they can get back in the win column against one of the league's best right now. But let's transition to Braves. I'll toss it back to you guys as well. Obviously, Atlanta coming off a pretty good weekend overall, 2-3 from the Phils. Big series, though, obviously coming up against the Nats, the team that's really chasing them right now. And I'd be interested to see what Josh has to say as well.
Oh, yeah, we've got some Braves updates, of course. We always have that at the end of our show, and I'll run through it real quick just to kind of recap, and then I'll bring in Josh, because Josh is our Atlanta Braves guru. That's right. So, Braves tied up the series with the Nationals that ended last Sunday, lost the 2-game series against the Royals at home, But as of Sunday, and I believe they ended up winning yesterday as well. Is that right, Josh? Never mind, we lost yesterday. But still won the series against the Phillies. On Saturday, Ozzie Albies hit a grand slam and became the 5th player in MLB history to have 4 grand slams before turning 23, and is the second youngest out of those 5. Josh and I had to do a little bit of research to get that nailed down because different outlets were saying different things, but that was the consensus. Also, as of Sunday, the Braves were first in the NL East still at a record of now, I guess it would be 62-44, with a winning percentage of .590 and still 6.5 games ahead of the second place Nationals. Now, the Braves are traveling to the Nationals for the next series, so all eyes are going to be on this series because it's going to be a battle between first and second place National League East teams. So, Josh, I'm going to bring you in for your professional opinion on the Atlanta Braves since you are our Atlanta Braves guru.
All right. Well, we've got the trade deadline approaching at the end of the month here. A lot of people are wanting the Braves to go after frontline starter and closers. Some people are thinking we might need to look at an outfielder now that Markakis is down for 6 to 8 weeks. I think Duvall, he's been killing it at Gwinnett. He stepped right into his first game on Saturday, had a big game. I think Duvall can hold the outfield spot down until Markakis is back. You're right, we've got a big series coming up against Washington. Tonight, Keuchel is going to face off against Corbin. I believe that starts around 7:05 tonight. They are, I think you said 6.5 back?
Yes.
Or no, they're 5.5 back. The Phillies are 6.5 back. The Braves are 4-6 in their last 10. We're going to need a big series against Washington. I'd love a sweep, but just to take the series would be nice. Take 2 out of those 3. They are hot right now, and we've kind of cooled down a little bit, so hopefully we can turn things around.
Yeah, don't want to cool off. You want to keep that stride while you're going, keep that momentum while you're going, and just truck on right on through. So, yeah, I hope as well, Josh, that the Braves, I mean, a sweep would be great, but at least win 2 out of 3. I mean, you're going to take what you can get, right?
Yep. And then there's a lot of speculation that we may be after Syndergaard for the Mets, but they actually just traded for another starter. So, and there's not a lot of, word out there on if they're bringing Stroman in from the Blue Jays so they can get rid of Syndergaard, or if they're somehow trying to make a push for the wild card, even though they've had a pretty bad year so far. So there's no telling what we're going to go after. I hope we get a good starter and a good reliever, and I think the outfield's fine.
All right, well, you heard it from the Atlanta Braves guru himself, Josh Ross, back there. We appreciate Josh for running all of our computer and graphics. And Dave, I appreciate you, as always, for being here as my co-host. And we are out of time here on this week's edition of Instant Replay. But we have had a lot of great stuff on here today, and I'm glad that I've been able to be here the entire time without having to sneak out early. Of course, you can go and see this video on our YouTube channel as well. If you're not watching it live, you can go and tell your friends and neighbors to go watch it on FYN TV, Fetch Your News. That is on our YouTube channel. You can subscribe as well. Then follow us on Instagram and Twitter as well at Team FYN Sports. And give our Facebook page a like as well at Team FYN Sports if you haven't done so already. As always, if you also have any information or shout-outs you want to share with us, especially with high school sports starting up soon, you can give us an email right there, teamfynsports@fetchyournews.com, or even give us a call at that number as well. So thank you all for being here with us today. Thank you for watching. We're looking forward to the upcoming seasons ahead, and we hope that you all have a fantastic Monday and a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you next week. Goodbye for now.